Hey, everybody, welcome back into another edition of the DrBicuspid.com podcast. My name is Kevin Henry, editor in chief for Dr. Bicuspid, and thrilled to be joined today by two gentlemen as we discuss a very hot topic heading into 2026, and that's the preservation of private practice in dentistry. So I'm thrilled to be joined today by Bob Spiel and Nate Williams. Gentlemen, how are you all today?
Fantastic, Kevin. Thanks for having
Doing
us.
very well.
Great. Glad to have you both on. Some of you may remember we've had Bob on a previous podcast, but if you didn't catch that, we're going to link it in the show notes. But Bob, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself first before Nate gets his turn, and then we're going to dive into the topic.
Yeah, you bet, Kevin. Yeah, Bob Spiel. I have been in dentistry going on 18 years. Before that was a hospital and surgical center CEO and have been in private practice as a practice consultant now going on 18 years. As I said, have two companies, Spiel Consulting and Hiring Pros. And we are huge proponents of private practice. We can't wait to explain to you why.
Nate, how about you, my friend?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, for having us. My name is Nate Williams, and I'm the founder and CEO of Practice Financial Group, our full-service CPA and financial services firm. We work exclusively with dental practice owners across the nation, and our firm is in the business of helping our clients keep more of the money they make, grow the money they keep, and to simplify their lives.
So, Nate, you're on the hot seat, so I'm going to stick with you if that's all right. We're going to talk about private practice and why it still matters. My question to you is, as we head into 2026, do you believe the future is bright for private practice in the face of all the DSO movement that's going on? And if so, why?
Yeah, good question. Kevin, I don't think the future has ever been brighter for dental practice owners, dental practitioners of all kinds. This is an industry that has just continued to grow and thrive. Innovation has really enhanced the doctor's ability to provide exceptional clinical care to patients. More people are wanting to keep their teeth longer. And as long as there are people, and as long as those people have teeth, and as long as those people want to keep their teeth in good condition, working condition, dentists are going to be very employed. So the future of dentistry is very bright. Dentists have never been more profitable overall and prosperous than they are now. And I've been working in this profession as a dental CPA for more than coming up on 18 years, and I've seen the financial x-rays of hundreds of practices, and this is not only is the future bright, but it's just getting brighter all the time. The reason why I'm a huge proponent of private practice is because dentistry is a very unique business model where the production of the business, the revenue of the business is generated by the hands, physically the hands of the trained doctor. It's not because of any other reason. And I'm just of the opinion and of the belief that those doctors should own the work that their physical hands produce.
Seems fair.
And Kevin, if I can just add into that, I think Nate's modest with that because he's not just of the opinion, as am I as well, but the numbers would hold that out, that if a practitioner wants to maximize their wealth, then staying as a private practitioner is the way to do so. Okay. Nate loves to make this comment in our own podcast. And if we can just pitch this right now,
Sure.
Nate and I have known each other now going on about 5 years. We launched a podcast called Just Say No to the DSO 2.5 years ago. Okay. And you can find that anywhere podcasts are available. It's gone really well. It's gone viral within the industry. And it's because we know that dentists are great problem solvers if they have great information, but there's been a lot of misinformation throughout the industry about, corporate roll-ups and the what that all means. But what Nate's done is he's been able to take, I don't know, probably over 100, 150 different DSO offers, letters of intent all the way to contracts, and peel them apart and ask the question, do these make mathematical sense? Is the doctor actually going to be better off if they go down this path as opposed to if they stayed independent? And one of the things that we love to say is, we wish this was just our opinion. We actually wish that we didn't even have to talk about this, but the numbers don't lie. Okay. The numbers tell a story, and the story is that if a dentist stays in private practice, grows that practice smartly, educates their hands and their heart and their mouth, that they are going to be far above anybody who sells their practice into a DSO by the time they're ready to get out of private practice. And they also have an asset to sell, by the way, and they have something that can be carried on as a legacy. So we're firm about it because we've seen the numbers, we've seen the impact on the teams, we've seen the impact on the industry, frankly, And we believe that the best course that 99% of practitioners can say is just say no to the DSO and say yes to growing their own practice.
I'd like to add to something that you said, Bob. Thanks for sharing that. One of the criticisms that we've received in our podcast, Just Say No to the DSO, is that we're too one-sided. We're only looking at it from this side. Bob made the astute observation recently that gravity is very one-sided. And, a mathematical equation, if I do 2 plus 2 equals 4, that is a very one-sided row number 4 position to take. But it doesn't matter how diverse you want to be or how open-minded you want to be, 2 plus 2 is 4. And so the mathematical equation of, am I going to make more money if I sell it to this DSO, or am I going to make more money if I retain ownership of my practice? And that's who we're talking to. That's our target audience, is the practice owning doctor who's getting pitched to sell his or her practice to the DSO. That's who we're trying to target. We're not targeting the person who says, I don't want to own a practice, I want to be an employee. We're targeting the person who already owns the practice, or who is thinking about their career and thinking, what is the best financial model for me? So Kevin, just to jump to the conclusions, so this isn't your opinion, my opinion, Bob's opinion, or somebody else's opinion. If I am a DSO, I am in the business of investing. Well, think of me, pretend for a minute that I'm a private equity guy. I have access to capital and I want to invest in the dental industry. You follow me? And I'm going to invest in the dental industry by buying the practice of Dr. Kevin Henry. Now, in Kevin Henry's practice, let's pretend he's a sole practitioner. Who generates the revenue for that practice? Is Dr. Kevin Henry, right?
Yeah, right.
So is it fair to say that if I am a private equity guy, I'm going to invest in Dr. Kevin Henry?
Makes sense.
Now, that sounds really flattering. I like to think of people saying, I want to invest in Nate Williams, but I want to put it another way. Dr. Kevin Henry is now my investment. You are my investment. Now, if you're my investment, what do I expect to receive from my investment?
Good return.
Return. What's that?
A good return. Yeah.
A return on my investment. The return on my investment is a profit. I want actual dollars coming from you to me. And so our question is very simple. Are you going to be financially better off being somebody else's investment? Or are you going to be better off financially by being your own investment?
And I mean, when you put it that way, it makes sense. And I get that completely. And I want to ask you all, one of the big things that I hear about DSOs, and let's just talk about this openly, okay?
Sure.
Is that you get good pricing on your supplies. You get team training, all the things that I hear dentists say are a bit of a pain point for them during the day. DSOs will help take care of that. So is that worth the exchange of down the end when you all say that the selling the practice won't be the economic return that they're looking for? I'm curious.
So, Kevin, can I give you a Nate Williams answer for that and let Nate fill in the blanks? Okay.
Sure.
Because we've been at this long enough, that we can kind of complete things. But he was having a conversation with one of his practice owners who was saying, man, this is so tough, and I don't know if it's worth it. And so Nate said, well, what did you make as an associate? X. What are you making now as an owner? Well, X plus Y. Okay. And his point was, you know what? That Y is your pain in the neck premium. Okay. And what happens is that when you sell to a DSO, you're actually giving them that premium, and then they're charging you an exorbitant amount, 10% or more, to be able to actually provide those benefits that they claim that they are going to do, that you could just capture yourself and leverage. And what we also hear is that rarely do they actually fulfill what they're saying they're going to do, because the dentist is still the leader of the practice. They're still the on-site person. And so to claim that, okay, I can move your supplies down from 7% to 5%. Great. Is that worth selling your practice for? Okay. If selling your practice is worth 2 points, then you've got deeper problems.
Yeah, so that's a good, thanks for sharing that, Bob. So yeah, Kevin, the first thing we would say is there is a meaningful amount of compensation that is paid to the doctor for being the owner and entrepreneur in their business. Okay, the leader in the business. And the name of that, the industry has a name for that. It's an accounting term called EBITDA. the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, the practice earnings after paying the doctor for doing the production work as an associate. That EBITDA, which is what is left over, is the compensation they earn for being the owner of the business. And I would just think most of your listeners should know that for most practices, that EBITDA number is larger than what they're doing as the dentist at clinical work. Something else just to add to that. There's no like we've never said that DSOs don't do some things for the practices. Maybe they do have a great assistant training program. Maybe this particular DSO has a really good marketing campaign and they've got a real marketing savant on staff and they, or maybe, whatever that they've got. Okay. Those are all things that the doctor can go out and find and buy all of those things, right? You can get marketing help. You can get training for your team. In most DSOs, in addition to buying a controlling interest 51% or more of the practice that they're acquiring, 51% being a controlling interest, in addition to buying a controlling interest and now owning all of the profits, 51% or more of the profits. In addition to that, like Bob alluded to, they charge a management fee. Now, most DSOs I've seen, some will charge up to 10% of the practice collections, but on the low end, we're seeing around 5% of the practice collections. So if you've got a $1 million practice, 5%, that's $50,000. $50,000 buys you a heck of a lot of marketing, consulting, and accounting services. That's a big budget for those things. And it's way more than most practices pay for those things. DSOs can come around all day long and say, well, we provide these great services to the doctor. We would say in response to that, you're significantly overcharging for those services in the form of the 5% plus the control and all the equity and the future profits of the practice. That's a lot to give away. It's like, I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to turn around and rent my house because I've got a faucet leaking. You can get the faucet fixed.
So, Kevin, can I shift gears for a minute now and kind of jump with the few minutes we got left into probably the biggest myth within the industry?
Let's do it.
And that is that DSOs actually pay more for your practice than a private buyer will do so.
Yeah, dive in.
Okay. I mean, we've had lots of opportunities to talk to dentists about that, and that seems to be the prevailing view that, yeah, it doesn't make sense for the industry to do this, and no, they may not be able to take care of all my problems, but I really think that I'm going to get more, and so therefore, I'm going to jump in. We talk about this at length in Just Say No to the DSO, and we go through exact models and case studies that Nate's gone through. What we found instead is that if you really compare what they're taking away out of your salary, what they're giving you in cash up front, and then what they're promising down the road in terms of equity, is that you can actually burn your practice to the ground at 5.5 years out and be equally as well off as if you had sold to a DSO, which may shock listeners, but that's what the numbers show. And it's because of all of these other holdbacks and growth assumptions and, promised equity that rarely materializes. What we've seen, frankly, is that the worst deal that Nate's reviewed, this practice owner was actually going to end up giving the DSO $2.5 million to buy his practice. So, and again, this is math, okay? This isn't opinion. This is math.
Yeah, the way these deals work, and I'll just spell it out real quickly. EBITDA, which is the term that all the private equity guys care about and has become a real buzz term within the industry. EBITDA has been around for a lot longer than before dentists ever became aware of it, but EBITDA represents 1 year's worth of income generated from the practice. And so if I own the practice for 1 year, I get my associate pay for working in my practice, some percent of production plus 1 times EBITDA. If I own a business for 5 years, I get the associate pay for 5 years plus 5 times EBITDA. So if I sell my business to you, Kevin, and then I work back for you for 5 years, and I continue to I continue to operate and produce in my business for those 5 years. I've sold the business to you, and now I'm working back for you. You're going to give me money, but I'm essentially going to be paying you back that EBITDA. I'm earning that EBITDA for you. If I quit, that EBITDA goes away instantly, right? How much does a practice produce when the doctor calls in sick? 0. And I'm ignoring hygiene because that's not a standalone business. And so if a private doctor will pay 3.5 times EBITDA for a practice and a DSO claims to pay 8.5 times EBITDA, but it also comes with a 5-year work back, then the two are actually paying the same price because you have to subtract 1 times EBITDA for every year I work for you as your associate, generating the EBITDA that now you are getting. And so an 8.5 times DSO sale is actually the equivalent of a 3.5 times walkaway sale. But it doesn't end there. If the DSO were to pay cash for a practice, then the doctor would get 8.5 times, and then he'd pay back the 5 times for the 5 years that he's working, and the doctor would be left with 3.5 times. But it doesn't end there because DSOs aren't paying 100% cash. They're paying a little bit of cash, and they're paying most of the purchase price in the form of DSO equity. That's how most of these are going. Well, let's look at DSO equity for a minute. As I've analyzed these deals, if you were to ask me, Nate, just in 5 seconds or less, what are DSOs paying for practice? I would tell you, Kevin, DSOs are paying 0 for practices, and the doctors are exchanging their practices 100% equity that they used to own of their own practice in exchange for DSO equity. If I were to just average out all of the offers, now they vary from offer to offer and things. There are some slight variations, but if you were to just say, Nate, 5 seconds or less, how much do DSOs pay for practice? I would say they pay 0. The doctors are trading their practices away for DSO equity. That's what's happening. So let's analyze the DSO equity. In a DSO, majority, and this will be quick, Kevin, because I know you want to wrap up. In a DSO, the majority owners are going to be the private equity backers. Those are going to be the majority owners if it's a private equity backed DSO, which any of the big ones that you've heard of are.
97% are.
Yeah.
And the secondary owners are going to be the very few founding doctors, right? So if you look at these DSOs, they all have some founding doctor at the head of them. That founding doctor or doctors, if it's maybe 2, maybe 3, those guys are going to have the second largest share of that DSO, okay? They're the guys who made the deal. They were in the room where it happened, and they're going to be the second largest owner. The minority owners are going to be all of the producing doctors that buy in. Now, DSOs will give up, and it's going to be different from DSO to DSO. MB2, for example, claims that they have the highest doctor ownership. We don't actually know what doctor ownership, nor do I think they would ever tell us the truth, because it's a private equity, meaning they don't have to go public with any of their information. So, but generally we'll see the doctors owning between 20 and 40% of the DSO. Okay. And so if there are 100 doctors owning this DSO, then all 100 doctors are sharing about 20 to 40% of the equity. Does that make sense? And every time they add a new doctor to the mix, my relative shares are diluted because the private equity guys and the founders are not going to give up more than that 40%. So every time we add a new doctor, I'm excited, like, oh my gosh, we've got more doctors. We're really growing. This is great. But I'm getting diluted every time. So our question to the doctors, and this is why we think this is gravity, this is math. This isn't just Nate and Bob, and they have this weird perspective on this thing, and we're not willing to be open-minded. It has nothing to do with that. This is like gravity. Gravity doesn't go up. It pulls down if you're standing on Earth, right? The reason we have this perspective is because these doctors are trading 100% equity of their practice for a shared 20 to 40% that will be diluted further and further. Well, what's the difference there? Number one, the profit distributions are going to be massively smaller at the DSO. They just are. And if you don't believe us, go talk to any number of doctors who have sold to DSOs and bring them in a private room and get them to tell you privately, slip them a few drinks and get them to confess to you how much they're actually making, or look at their tax returns and you'll see they're making way less than they used to make. That's number one. Number two is the control that doctors used to have as a 100% owner compared to the control that they have over their business now. And it's night and day different.
Some compelling arguments. There's no question about it. And obviously, as you said, the Just Say No to the DSO podcast is somewhere that I know a lot of people can dive a lot deeper with you all into this. But also, I want to make sure if you both want to give a plug for how to reach you individually outside of the podcast and learn a little bit more about your companies, as well as some of the things that you've talked about today, too.
Yeah, you bet. Nate, you want to go first?
Sure. You can reach me by going to our company website, practicefinancialgroup.com. And on there, there's a contact us page. That's the best way to reach me and hear about our company, practicefinancialgroup.com.
And same thing for me. If you go to Spiel Consulting, that's S as in Sam, P like in Peter, IEL Consulting.com. There's a contact me button there, and happy to be able to respond to any of your listeners and see what we can do to help them. You know, Kevin, if I can just close, we're not anti-corporation. Okay. I mean, everything today that we're doing, from the microphone to this Riverside to the laptop, it's all done by a corporation. And corporations have been amazing in terms of increasing our standard of living and, you know, how we live today. We can't imagine how people did 100 years ago. But it is our contention, and we believe the numbers hold this up, that private equity and the corporate model just doesn't work in dentistry. And in the end, it will lead to, if it succeeds, the doctors will be in much worse situation. Kind of like what I saw when I was in medicine. I don't know any medical doctors today that love their life or are so proud or happy that they own their own practice, because they don't. Okay. They'll never get that genie back in a bottle. We've still got this genie in the bottle here in dentistry, but we've got very little time for practice owners to realize, you know what? I'm going to say yes to growing my practice, and I'm going to say no to the DSOs. And that's our mission. That's our message. And we hope that your listeners will chime in and jump off this podcast and listen to ours.
Absolutely. It's a great handoff from one to the other, because I know that you all have spurred a lot of thoughts today. And I know that there's a lot of questions that may come up from what you said. And hopefully, as you said, they'll reach out or listen to the Just Say No to the DSO podcast as well. So, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great to be with
Great
you.
to be
Thank
with you here, Kevin.
Yeah. Hey, I enjoyed it. And seriously, thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of the DrBicuspid.com podcast. Hey, it's a perspective that we need to acknowledge, and it's a perspective that we need to think about as we head into 2026. What's best for dentistry, as well as what's best for you as an individual as well. Till next time, it's Kevin Henry, Editor-in-Chief, signing off. And as always, wishing you nothing but success.